Good morning, Dubai. And today we have Dr. Louise Lambert in the house. Whee!
The problem in this regard is that I see a lot of people against a lot of challenges when it comes to education. My name is Ahmed Elnaggar,
and this is Monday Legal.
Good morning, my dear friends and colleagues, for a new episode of Monday Legal. My guest for today is Dr. Louise Lambert and Happiness Matters.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi.
It's good to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming.
My pleasure.
So my guest for today is not a lawyer. I've invited her because I've seen her talking to a very big audience a few months ago, and I learned a lot, and I was really astonished by how much someone who takes something as simple as the word happiness matters and put them together in a very comprehensive, nice presentation that explains a lot. And I thought that it might be very beneficial for a lot of people, as it benefit me, that I invite Dr. Louise today and talk about happiness.
Fantastic. What a great idea.
You know, this show is all about lawyers.
Yeah.
Legal stuff.
So it's very fitting.
So I'm going to tell you something, and that's why I probably invited you, is that we are perceived as we are one of the unhappiest professions in the world. Okay. One of the professions that does not reflect this kind of happiness, and we have this image of not being happy or being stressed all the time, or that some people do not feel happy as well when they hear that there is a lawyer in the room, or, you know, these kind of emotions. And I want to ask you, since you're an expert in happiness, what is that all about? Why are we unhappy?
So it's actually true. So when we look at, there's been a number of research studies looking at this topic, looking at happiness levels by different professions and industries. So when we look at those statistics, there's probably a recent study that was just done looking at 140 different professions. The unhappiest, number 1, 2, and 3, lawyers, dentists, who knew?
Wow.
I have no idea. That'll be another podcast.
Okay.
Veterinarians and doctors. But lawyers were number 1 in terms of depression, 3.6 times more likely to be depressed, 2 times more likely to be anxious. Also very high rates of divorce, substance abuse, alcohol abuse, drug abuse, and tragically, suicide. So for lawyers who are very stressed, the likelihood of thinking about suicide is about 22 times more likely. Lawyers who report being moderately stressed, it's 5 times more likely. These are astronomical figures, and other professions don't even come close. So it is sadly true. However,
thank you. Please go ahead.
let me help you out.
Okay.
However, I think what is also interesting and important to say, because, you know, sometimes lawyers listening to this go, oh my gosh, what's wrong with us? There's nothing wrong with you. So nobody enters this profession being that way, but part of it is in the way that lawyers are trained, and it starts right at university. So when we look at what makes a good lawyer, it's 2 things. One is perfectionism. Now today we use that word in a bad way, but that's why lawyers are good at what they do. They double check, they triple check, a little bit of OCD, right? It's perfect. But again, that's what you're hired for. It needs to be perfect, but it also fuels a lot of anxiety. So part of it is baked into the job description. The other thing is this notion of prudence. So in the law, we call it prudence. So this is really looking for problems, risks, being very cautious, basically looking for everything that could go wrong and that could harm your client. Again, it's exactly what you're hired for. But outside of the law, Another word for prudence is actually pessimism. Again, I always use a lot of the research and evidence to inform what I do, but also the talks that I give, which you rightly mentioned. And what studies have found is that this sense of pessimism, again, unlike other professions, is very, very helpful in lawyers. So again, in the US, a number of studies looking at the rate of optimism and pessimism in lawyers. And what we find is that the lawyers that are the most pessimistic have the highest GPAs. They're better performing. They make more money over time, and they are more successful in their career. Unlike other professions where, example, if you're in sales, being pessimistic, you'd quit in the first hour because 192 people are going to reject you each day. So the very thing that makes lawyers really successful, prudence, perfectionism, also set them up for high rates of mental health issues and very high rates of unhappiness.
That's quite, relatable a little bit. I understand that the accuracy and the stress of competition and the stress of we want to get things done.
Yeah.
Not just good, but also fast.
Quickly. Yeah.
To be able to be competitive, because if it's done right and done quickly,
you're ahead of the game.
Yes, exactly.
And you win.
You're the best. You're the
Yeah.
And we compete with a lot of people. We compete with a lot of bodies in this profession. We compete with ourselves. We compete with our colleagues. We compete with other firms as well, and we compete with the other party in every transaction.
Right. It's extremely competitive.
Absolutely. And this does the competition steers the unhappiness?
Well, it certainly fuels some of that, because what it means is if you're competing against your peers, now in any other organization, your peers should help you. You collaborate, you cooperate, you work together towards the same goals. In fact, competing with people makes things worse. But again, in law, we want people to compete because we get the best outcomes. So it helps the firm, but it doesn't necessarily help individual lawyers. So if you go into the office every day, you're competing with this guy, that one, that one, that one. And competition brings out a little bit of nastiness, let's be honest, right? It like, wow, yeah, that will drive your motivation. It's also going to make you kind of miserable by noon.
Well, one of the reasons years ago, I started the community. I started to bring some lawyers together and created Emirates Legal Network. I wanted to promote a lot the collaboration. Yeah. But believe it or not, still there's competition within the community, competition within the colleagues, because everybody wants more business because they have to prove themselves. And the way to prove yourself is to
stand up,
make more money, have more clients, have a bigger firm or a nicer event, or be invited to speak in Monday Legal podcast, for example.
Exactly.
Things like this.
Yeah.
You need to show off your skills. You need to show off your yourself and your firm and all of this. So even within small collaborative communities, competition arise and might be taken in a healthy way and might be taken in a negative way that might reduce the happiness level. What could be the solution?
So a couple of things you mentioned, and then I'll jump to the solution, a solution of many. This idea that, and I think it's true in all professions, we're chasing likes, we're chasing attention. Look at me. That drives a lot of pressure. But in certain professions, we also maybe focus on the wrong drivers of happiness. So another study looked at what lawyers thought were the contributors to their happiness. So they said things like, the status or the standing of their university, their own standing in their class, how much income they made, how prestigious the firm was, things that we kind of tie with external drivers of motivation. Now, just from psychology, we know that external drivers of motivation work a little bit, but they eventually just wear off over time. You're just like, whatever, who cares? But those same lawyers then were tracked over time. So longitudinal study. And then again, asking them a couple of, months or years later, what drives happiness at work for you? And the answers were totally different. So there they said things like collaboration, getting along with peers and liking the people that you work with and being liked by the people that you work with. They also talked a lot about being able to pursue intrinsic goals, so projects or cases that they liked, having autonomy, having a little bit of choice, and actually prestige, status, and money were not at all linked to happiness or even success at work. So part of the solution is having conversations like that, like this, and, really getting people to think about what's a good day at work for you. And often it'll be having fun, getting along with my colleagues, getting this really interesting case because I'm really interested in this topic or that topic. Or maybe, it's going to put me on the front cover of a magazine or on Monday Legal podcast. And that's okay. Everybody likes to be seen. But if you're chasing all the time, just money, 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 status, 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 not that that doesn't help. Look, I won't say no to it, but it's not lasting. It's not sustainable.
Yeah, and there's no ceiling for it. You'll be always chasing it
exactly.
forever.
It never really ends, right?
Yeah.
And I think this is important in two ways. So one, for professionals in the legal industry, if you will, to think about, what is driving my happiness and what is meaningful about what I do, but also for law firms themselves. So if you're trying to make people happy by just throwing money at them, this eventually stops working. And you got to give them more than that. So maybe it is an opportunity to be on a podcast. Maybe it's an opportunity to do a few guest talks in a university. Maybe it's an hour or two per month to write an article in publications. Maybe it's setting up a legal summit. But it's thinking about, what do you like about this field? And how can you start to think about how to build meaning again, how to fall in love with the law again, and not just the external drivers of it.
Since we're talking about the individual happiness in this profession, because a lawyer, man or a woman, is at the end of the day is a human being, and each of them have different aspects. So what we said, that the money or status or even time with the family could be a motivation of happiness in this profession. How hard is it for law firms to create a happy work environment, and at the same time do not tailor that I'm going to make Ahmed happy by this and I'm going to make Louise happy by that, because both of them work in the same firm at the same level?
So I think a couple of things are going on, particularly in law. It is difficult to make changes because you're paid to be perfect, on time, fast, and win. Nobody hires a lawyer to lose, but necessarily somebody has to lose, right? So law firms try to avoid that at all costs. So you've got pressure coming from outside. Clients say, we want A, B, C. Lawyers themselves saying, I want to be known, I want to be important, I want to make money, I want status. I also want this. And the cost of that is work those long hours and not see your kids as much as you like. And then law firms themselves, they need to make money. So it is difficult. On the other hand, there is room and there's lots of evidence of law firms saying, oh, hang on. If we don't do this, we've got people who are off on sick leave, who just don't come back. We're having a hard time recruiting people. A lot of these younger lawyers are saying, no, I don't want to do that. By the way, lawyers have an extremely high rate of turnover. So by different estimates is between 20 and 40% the first 3 years. That's massive. And also retention is very difficult. So there's a reason why everybody wants to work in-house. So law firms are really starting to think about this and going, wow, actually, there are costs to not paying attention to well-being. We just kind of assume, well, that's the way it goes, but that's not the way it needs to be. So they are starting to factor, what is it costing us? Can you make everybody happy? No, of course not. And maybe happiness is the wrong word, but can you at least make them less miserable? This is possible. So if we think about,
all lawyers are miserable. We try to make you less miserable.
Okay. Baby steps, people, baby steps. Okay. But it's, there are tiny things that can be done. Yeah. So it's thinking about, do we respectfully engage with people, or do we just chuck work at them and say, good luck with that, goodbye, and not even, right? Do we delegate mindfully. And I'm using this word very particularly because a good example of this is, I don't know if I can name drop. You can edit it if not. Pinsent Masons. So they've got this news a couple years ago, the Mindful Business Charter. I might have mangled that title, but something like this. And in short, it's about, no, we're not here to make you happy, but can we make work just not be so awful? So can we delegate respectfully? So literally a week ago, I was having a conversation with a lawyer who's since gone in-house. His whole life has been transformed. But he would say things like, oh, no. My firm used to respect my going home time. So I could leave Friday at, still 6 or 7. But just before leaving, they'd say, I'm mindful of time and I know you're going home for the weekend, but here's a new case. Can you have it prepared by Monday? This is not respectful.
Yeah.
Right? So disrespect costs people. That right there is where your turnover comes in. So thinking about, how do we delegate work? Can we do this a few days earlier? Probably the answer is yes. But sometimes, people who've gone through the initial hazing as a lawyer kind of chuck it to others after. That's not very nice to do, but some people do it. Can we be more respectful of rest times and recognize that lawyers need rest, just like pilots, just like heart surgeons? We don't ask them to do 72-hour shifts. They will cause accidents. This has an impact on people. This has an impact on making mistakes in a case which could cost billions of dollars. So there are a lot of things that firms can do. They are maybe small, but if they calculate even these tiny small changes, this can translate into even retaining 5% more people, having an easier time recruiting people, having fewer people on sick leave. This saves a lot of money.
Let's look at the other way around. I've seen a lot of firms complain about the lawyers being unhappy because they have everything done easy. They pay them very well. They have their extra activities. They have their after work drinks. They have the beautiful view with a lot of sun, office space, and still lawyers, junior or senior, doesn't matter, kind of get depressed or stressed that put them out of work for a few weeks or few months, and it automatically reduce the productivity of the firm.
Yeah.
And the firm carries a lot of costs because making everybody happy is also very hard.
Right. But this is the problem. This is not making people happy. This is giving them perks. These are distractions. So this is like the equivalent of, hey, let's do yoga and here's some fruit. What is this going to do? So you can't out yoga a bad manager.
Yeah.
You can't eat your way to work satisfaction, right? These are perks. These are distractions, and they're not really getting at the root of the issue. So, there's many things here, but, part of it is, if we look at the individual, teaching skills like what to do with this pessimism. It helps you at work. Keep it. Carry on. You're doing great. When you get out of work, how do you develop a sense of flexible optimism? Because if you bring that pessimism into your marriage or into your parenting or into your basketball team or into whatever it is that you do, you're quickly going to see your happiness drop. So it's making lawyers aware of, how do you use different mindsets? That could be one. The other one is thinking about, coming back to this idea of meaning, right? How do we make work meaningful again? So can firms, rather than, giving you a perk or a beautiful view, which is nice, but again, thinking about what is meaningful to you. Do you want an extra hour to do your podcast? Actually, we'll sponsor it for you. Right? There you go.
Happy.
Yeah. So it's thinking about what are the drivers that are going to sustain people at a very real level instead of just like trivial things. There is another thing we can do, and that's thinking about how do we interact with one another. So again, lots of surveys have showed that, lawyers need sleep. They're terribly fatigued. So even having little nap rooms, I know it sounds a little bit childish, but getting extra sleep does a world of good for your mood. The other thing that lawyers often complain about is workplace incivility. So this is not so much that people are mean, although sometimes they are, but what happens in these very competitive environments where people are stressed, people are on the clock, it's a lot of high pressure stakes. The first thing to go is politeness. The first thing to go is kindness. The first thing to go is respect. So we end up saying, I need this by 2, and then we storm out. Now, maybe we can avoid that and say, I'm really sorry. I know you're busy. You need this by 2. Thank you for doing your best. Like that changes everything.
Yeah.
And if you can't do that, you can repair. So at the end of the day, you come back in and you say, I'm sorry, I was really short with you. Are we okay? Yeah. Okay, good. Right. Like people are also very forgiving. So it's how we treat people. If at a minimum we can be kind, we can see them, we can appreciate their efforts. That also goes a long way.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I have personal experiences. I started my company and I started hiring people when I was at the age of 31.
Okay. Wow.
I really did not ever work in a corporate or in a big law firm. So I was learning everything by doing, and managing people was very, very difficult.
It's not obvious. Yeah.
So I was learning everything, and I had the experience of seeing how do I expect the lawyers to know everything, and I don't need to brief them. So I was throwing works at them, and then I get to be disappointed afterwards.
Yeah.
But with briefing comes a lot of good things, a lot of time saving and expectations met, as well as encouragement. The difference between spotting someone and showing them how bad they did the job, sometimes in public and sometimes in private, and sometimes not doing it at all. And from each of these scenarios, I've done them, these mistakes I've done, and I learned for sure being more kind and being more polite and more encouraging and more mindful to the people, whether as a manager or as a colleague, makes a big difference.
It does.
But there is one very important element that a lot of people miss, is that dealing with a partner who is a lawyer, or dealing with a friend who is a lawyer, or dealing with a brother who is a lawyer, is something that is very specific. Do you have anything to say about this? Because I understand that the divorce rates
is enormous in lawyers.
It's unbelievable, and there must be a reason, and it cannot be that all the lawyers are in the wrong.
No, but certainly this pessimism doesn't help.
Okay.
Also, long hours don't help. So if you're always away from your partner, and even if so 2 things happen. One is, you're at work, so you're not at home. But when you're at home, your brain is still at work, so you're not fully being present.
Yeah.
That also takes a strain on relationships as well. So advice for partner of, friend of, I think sometimes it's saying, you know what? We're not going to talk about work. Let's just go out and have fun. Right? So I think it's also helping you set limits and helping you be present in the moment. So often, people come home from a long day and partners are trying to be nice and they kind of give you your space. And maybe what they should be saying is, I actually need your help in the kitchen. Take my hand, come here, and we're going to spend time. And I'm going to tell you how the kids' day was, right? So inviting you rather than letting you go off and be in your mind and your mental soup and stress of the day, but is pulling you into the family, pulling you into this life and not that life. So it's really just, again, where's your mind at, and trying to be more in the moment. Now, I know that's difficult when you're stressed. You've got a big case. Yeah, you're always thinking about it. It's either at the forefront or at the back, but it's kind of always working on you. So being able to disconnect, as difficult as that is, but even if it's just tiny little pockets of time, and that will actually be helpful towards your case as well.
Yes.
Yeah. What has worked for you? I'm going to turn the question back on you.
That doesn't work for me, what you said.
Okay.
And I will be very honest.
Okay. No,
because
yeah.
I can be a bit stressed, and I can be, it can be a long day.
Yep.
I might need not to be pulled into tasks or into any other stressful situation because I have a lot of stress at work. I want to immediately go into entertainment or fun, or let's go out, let's have a drink, let's have a
just a stark shift.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I want to go to the gym. I want to do something that is absolutely taskless.
Okay. Yeah.
Don't give me another task.
Okay.
I'm tired.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm divorced, so it doesn't matter. It's
No,
just that it is
just a
really
caveat.
topic.
Yeah.
And I'm not the only divorce lawyer. There's so many other divorce lawyers in this industry, men and women.
Yeah.
And I understand that their partners also had an impact into this relationship, but it's not just partners, it's friends.
Yeah.
Because I see friends all the time when I go out, and they ask me, the first thing they do is that whatever, but then, hey, I want to ask you a question. And that's like
try being a psychologist.
that is my...
So my daughters, oh no, here we go.
Exactly. And I'm happy to answer. I'm happy to help people, of course, but
you can't stop being a lawyer.
It's impossible.
Yeah. But I'm going to come back to what you said, and I think it's good. So in the field of happiness, we study what are called positive psychology interventions. So these are strategies that raise our positive emotional experiences, as well as our life satisfaction, meaning in life, subjective well-being. We have a whole bunch of different terms for this. And just having fun is one of them, right? We don't give ourselves permission just to go do something stupid, like whatever, dancing on the table. Okay, not to be recommended, but all right, can be dangerous. And then you'd have a lawsuit against you. And then we need to ask you again, right? But, positive emotional experiences are like vitamins. They help us become our best selves. They decrease stress. They help us connect with other people better. They allow us to forget about ourselves and be in the moment. So things that, help you, feel, sense of anticipation, joy, interest, curiosity, gratitude, love, hope, optimism. These are good for us. And anything that is going to help you do that, go for it. You have my permission. I'm a doctor.
Thank
Trust
you very
me.
much. Okay. Thank you so much. But what exactly is happiness? I mean, this is a big word, and I think everybody is working towards it. They get married for it. They bring kids.
They get divorced for it.
They get divorced for it. They make a new friend for it. And I think everybody's seeking the happiness, but can you describe it?
Yeah. I think we don't talk enough about happiness. So we talk about misery all the time.
Yes.
Everybody knows the symptoms of depression, anxiety, major mental health issues, blah, 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 blah.
Experts, everybody's
an expert. And it makes us miserable because actually the more we focus on our emotions, the more miserable it can make us. So there's some theories in psychology that say, just forget all that and go live your life and have fun. And there's a lot to be said for that. But I think these are good questions. What makes us happy? What is happy? So I work a lot in the space called positive psychology. It's a branch of psychology. It's empirically validated. We use the same science as we do for everything else, but we study what makes life worthwhile, what makes life worth living, and what do we actually mean by happiness, but also what are the strategies to get there. So in positive psychology, how we define happiness, first of all, we don't use that word, because it doesn't mean anything. This is a word we use in popular culture. It means nothing. In positive psychology, we use the word subjective well-being. So it's you determining, am I well? Am I living a good life? So you determine whether your life is acceptable to you. It also looks at the frequency of positive emotional experiences. So how often you experience positive emotions on any given day. Also, how often you experience negative emotions. So we don't want to bring these to zero. We need a little bit of negativity because when you're, competitive, right, makes you motivated. When you're jealous, makes you work harder. When you're a bit annoyed, it makes you get up and walk out of the room. So we need some of that, but we don't want to be feeling negatively all the time, all the day. This is miserable. So that's how we look at happiness. It's our determination of, is my life good? Positive and negative, a ratio of how often you experience those. Now, there's a lot of other different models. There's a lot of different theories around happiness and different ways of obtaining it. But in short, it's paying attention to our emotional experience and then how you feel about what you do. So it is a little bit loose, but the advantage of that is you determine its content. Now, in psychology, we also have principles. We know what works better We know what doesn't work. What doesn't work is, we talked earlier about these extrinsic drivers, materialism, status, wanting to impress others, likes. They work for like about a minute, but that's not really going to get you anywhere. We know what does work, meaning, doing something you like that reflects who you are, having fun and being a bit ridiculous sometimes, being engaged, losing ourselves in whatever it is we do, whether that's skateboarding, basketball, writing a brief, working on research, or doing a puzzle with your kids, right? Being good. So it could be volunteering. It could be giving to charity. It could be, whatever, donating your time to a cause. And accomplishments. We need to feel good about ourselves, which is why, in a sense, law is a great avenue for happiness. But sometimes the way it gets done, we kind of end up going left instead of going right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you a very good story.
Okay.
I would not call it funny or interesting or whatever.
Okay.
It's a good one.
So temper my expectations.
Yeah.
Okay.
So since we got in touch together and I asked you to come and you agreed, thank you very much.
I kind of invited myself.
It was actually a very good thing that I consider bringing you here because the topic is amazing. And we discussed that I will have to think of a few questions and so on. And since that day, I'm asking a few people that I meet. So at least one or two people, I ask them, are you happy?
Okay. What did they say?
A lot of nonsense.
Okay.
But one of them answered me an answer that kept me thinking for a few hours. Okay. Afterwards, after I left, I asked him, are you happy? And he said, it doesn't matter. And I said, sorry, what are you talking about? And he said, I'm doing the right things at the right time. I'm getting the right results. I'm a very responsible man towards my family. My family is happy. I'm a very responsible man towards my job. My clients are happy. My colleagues are happy with me. Me being happy or not doesn't matter. I'm a responsible guy and I'm doing the right thing. So happiness for me is not a big deal. I'm just happy that the people around me is happy. Then I told him but it seems like you're happy. And he says, I don't ask myself that question.
So this is a great story. I'm also a researcher. And when I first arrived in the UAE, it's been many years, so you can check how long it's been since that study was published. But what I wanted to explore was, does happiness look different in different cultures? And it does. So in the West, it's my feelings, my goals, my ambitions, it's all about me.
Yeah.
When I asked my Emirati students and just other Arab, different nationalities, what happiness was for them, the word I never appeared. When my parents are proud of me, when my sister is happy, when my brother's doing well, basically everybody else goes first, and then that makes me happy. So that was very interesting. Now, does that mean that person is happy or not? Maybe they are. Maybe they don't want to say, because there's also this notion of, don't say when you're happy.
Or don't be selfish. Think of yourself alone.
Yeah, right? Because if you say you're happy, another study I did was looking at the fear of happiness. So if you announce that you're happy, bad things are coming.
Wow.
Because God gives you happiness, not you. So this was also very eye-opening for me. So we are different in the way that we understand happiness. In positive psychology, we also have, different philosophical ways of thinking about happiness. And one is this notion. So Aristotle talked a lot about this notion of eudaimonic happiness. And this is the happiness, I try to describe it as happiness that doesn't feel good. So this is the happiness you get from doing a university degree. It's kind of miserable. You're going to cry a lot. You're going to be super stressed, but it's kind of happiness. So it's doing hard things. It's applying yourself. It's taking risks. It's failing. It's living in line with your values. It's doing good for others. It's contributing to community. There's a lot that goes into that, but that's one form of happiness. And it tends to align with Islamic well-being. So there's a lot of work being done in that area as well. There's another type of happiness. This is Epicurus. This is my kind of guy. He's like, woohoo, party, but in a serious kind of way. So Epicurus talks about hedonic happiness. And this is, you know what? Life is short. Eat the cheese because you might not be here tomorrow. So although it's fun, there's a seriousness to it. And that is life really is short. And we need to prioritize feeling good, not every minute of the day. But if you don't need to feel bad, then don't. And try to enjoy it. Try to be optimistic. Try to be hopeful. Try to be nice to those around you. Try to add joy to others because this is it. This is it. And wear a nice tie.
Yes, all the time. I want you to tell us the things that would create a barrier between us and happiness, because everybody have to find their way into happiness. What exactly make them happy? Because me and you, we don't know.
Yeah.
It's a culture.
And there are many ways.
There are many ways. Yeah. I think the way I find happiness is completely different than the way my brother finds happiness.
Yeah.
And we grew up in the same house. We got the exact same education. We're from the same culture. And he's not a lawyer, lucky. It's just that
he'll live longer.
Yeah. Different people, different emotions, different targets in life, and what makes them happy is different. So I don't want to ask you how to be happy, because this is something everybody have to find within.
Yeah.
But maybe you can tell me what not to do, or what could be the barriers between us and our happiness.
Yeah. So I think.
And remember, we are lawyers.
Oh, exactly. So I will be held liable for everything I say here. Please don't do this at home. You have to put a little disclaimer at the bottom.
Yeah.
So I think a few things. One is, thinking about how do you want to do this? How do you want to do life? So you can do it thinking of others, giving, which is one way. That's good. You can also do it thinking about joy and, fun. And there's nothing wrong with that. We've sort of unfairly stigmatized fun because it can also be done to excess, and then that's bad. Overspending, overeating, So I think what I'm trying to say is notice what works for you. Ask yourself, when have I been happier or happiest in my life? Notice as you go throughout your day or week or month, what are those little peaks? And what are you doing at that moment? So maybe you get your happiness from having really deep philosophical conversations with people. Great. Get more of those friends. But if you notice also that your downs are doing things because it makes other people happy, stop doing that or do less of it. Sometimes we just kind of go along. We also receive a lot of messages from society about what is supposed to make us happy. In Dubai, anything that's expensive is supposed to make you happy, but sometimes it doesn't. You just want to go to a little taco stand on the beach, and that's great. And it's actually funner than something really expensive. So don't just follow the crowd, but notice, do I like this? Is it fitting for me? Not because others tell me it should, or because the media is telling me it should, but are you having a good time? Great. Then keep doing that. Keep repeating that. And if you're not, then stop doing that. Right? So I think it's listening to ourselves. It's kind of honoring our experience. It's determining what's the recipe for you. Also knowing that it may change over time. So a couple of years ago, my happiness came from, one of the pathways is engagement. So I was full on research. Now, I was also very productive. I published a bunch of books and research, and I think all my publications came from those years. And then I got to a point where I thought, oh my gosh, I'm burnt out and I'm not having fun. I don't like this. And now I'm no, bring on the cheese. I want to go out with friends. I want to have fun, because also I think as we get older, we're more mindful of time. And this is, I think, in one of the talks that we did, or I did with you, is the notion, and maybe it'll be good for listeners as well, to calculate how much time you have left, how many Mondays you have left. So if we calculate average life expectancy of 80 years, we have about 4,000 Mondays. I'm now 50. My math is terrible. Anyway, that leaves approximately 1,500 and something or other. And every couple of weeks, I literally do the math.
So about taking time for granted, I invite everybody watching the podcast, this episode, to count how many Mondays that's left in their life based on their country's or the global life expectancy.
Yeah.
But for the same reason, I would like to verse a piece of Quran. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allah يتوفى الأنفس حين موتها والتي لم تمت في منامها فيمسك التي قضي عليها الموت ويرسل الأخرى إلى أجل مسمى إن في ذلك لآيات قوم يتفكرون. صدق الله العظيم. The meaning of this surah is that God takes all lives of everybody who's asleep and then release back some of them to a specific time that's known only by God. صدق الله العظيم. So you don't know how much do you have on this earth and you don't know when you're going to die. So better live your life in happiness and live it the fullest. With this, I would like to thank you so much for your amazing speech and for coming and
Thank
giving
you.
us all your knowledge and
I love it. Thank you so
making
much.
us more happy.
Wonderful.
Hopefully.
Eat the cheese, everybody.
Eat cheese or coffee.
Coffee's good. Yeah.
Or I mean, go to the gym,
Go play tennis. Go to the beach.
go propose, get
Yes.
a divorce,
Call the girl. Tell her you love her.
everything you want to do, call Ahmed and tell him that you would like to come to Monday Legal or you'd like to sponsor me. Press subscribe, share this episode, tell your depressed husband,
Ask
To
for
quit.
what you want.
do it.
Life is
Just
short.
do
Yeah.
what you want. Do everything you think of because life is too short and happiness.
Matters.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.